back, baby. It's the charity stripe. Pitch your free throws because they are free. Fisher, Tesopoulos, Snacks, Kreider, Simpson, Pierce Simpson of Complex joining us before we got kicked off, man. You were saying my Celtics are the best team in the league. You just interviewed Jason Tatum, did a piece on him.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw that performance last night against the Brooklyn Nets.
I mean dominated, start to finish.
I mean, what's it, like 42 points in the first quarter, ended with 139. I know the Nets were missing KD, but still, just a performance like that from Boston. It seems like they're trying to avenge what happened in the finals, and so far, I don't know who's in their way.
I mean, I feel like we're not surprised. I mean, they've gotten there so many times, they've gotten close enough, and this is still such a young team, you know, and like they're finally coming to fruition. Like this feels like it can be a legitimate dynasty, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like if we all think about it, like we've been watching this team play together forever,
And they're younger than us.
but they're younger than us, which is like insane, right?
I hate to shamelessly plug, but that's what Jason Tatum mentioned in the interview that I had that you can check out on Complex Sports.
There's the real plug.
You know what I'm saying? That he mentioned, you know, I asked him about the idea of splitting up himself and Jaylen Brown, because that's always been a thing these past few years. It's like they need to split up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
I mean, the talks on it were heavy last year when they started off first half of the season. Yeah.
And then he started rattling off the things they've accomplished. They've been to the playoffs every year. They've been to the conference finals 4 times. They've been to the finals. And as he said, Jaylen Brown just turned 26 at the beginning of the season. He's not even 25 yet. He'll be 25 in 2 months. And they've been playing at this extremely high level. Let's just give it time. And it seems like they're finally finding their footing. And like you mentioned, they have the recipe to make a dynasty out east, considering your 2 best players are this young and this prolific.
Yeah.
It's interesting that, like, what I hear from that, outside of the fact that, I mean, he's incredible. The year that he's having this year, phenomenal. Jaylen Brown, he takes a step up every single season. But that he's paying so much attention to what's going on. And I think it's not like a criticism of him. I think it's just more of a reality of these guys that are
Paying attention to what?
Paying so much attention to just the accolades and the history of like him as a player already, right? He and Jaylen Brown, like what they've accomplished and like really keeping track of it. I just think that in the modern NBA, because social media is everywhere, like I saw this hilarious video. Did you see the JJ Redick where he's making fun of each different Twitter fan base on the NBA?
Yeah.
It's incredible. But like so many of these athletes are on Twitter as well. So many of these athletes, like CJ McCollum has his own show, right? Like they're in the conversations and they're paying attention in a way that I think prior they weren't able to.
It's branding. It's more money in their pocket, you know? The same thing with like college athletes and NIL. Like they got to be aware of everything that, you know, they bring to the sport.
Yeah.
And motivation too, I think, like to a certain extent. Like if you weren't writing down every single like trip that you had to the playoffs, right? If you didn't say like, okay, we played the Pistons, then we played
I know they
then we played the Celtics, then we played the Pacers. No, I'm just talking about like back in the day or whatever. Like if you weren't writing it down or you weren't like keeping the literal paper, how would you actually know who you played?
And I think now more than ever too is like athletes are having to kind of defend themselves more often because like fans can just tweet them or just like hit them on wherever, and they kind of have to back up the things that fans will come to them about, because fans are smarter than ever before because we live in such an information age. But my favorite thing is when players lie and say that they don't pay attention. They all pay attention.
I mean, look at KD with his burner accounts.
I mean, you just like it's in your face. Like if you have your phone, either your friend's going to share something with you, or you're just going to stumble.
Here,
you know what I'm saying? Like just the idea of just like kind of just not seeing things. I just don't think that's.
I think you have to be one of those guys who literally like leaves their phone at home.
Yeah.
When you like drive to the arena, but then like, how are you going to talk to your family, your friends, like anyone? Someone came to see you that game. Like,
How are you
supposed to link up with them? Like, what do you?
I always have the thought of like, how would I be with a map?
Right,
I need to like for me to get to, you know, crypto.com, whatever it's called right now.
It's
like,
still Staples to me.
Thank you.
It's still Staples. It's still there we go.
Appreciate
Still
you.
Staples.
Yeah. I mean, like Staples Center. Like, for me to get there, I need my map. I need my phone. Like, when do I break one of these out? Like it's 1950. I mean, we become so dependent on it. I do think though, like players being aware, and it's interesting we bring up like Jason and Jaylen being broken up because we're so quick to destroy a chemistry before it's even started. Like there's something to letting something marinate.
Absolutely.
Like if you look at I had a conversation, I was talking about Jaylen and Jason with my dad last night, and we were talking about all the times they had gotten there. Like they lost the Heat. They probably could have beaten the Heat realistically. They're a couple Kyrie injuries away from really maybe going to the finals even before they had already gone last year.
For sure.
And then we got to the point, he goes, we get to the Hawks somehow.
Yeah.
Because he's a Knicks fan.
Right.
and his whole MO of the year is do we not have DeJounte Murray on our team? Like, how is Murray on the Hawks? How is he not?
Yeah.
We're not even talking about Spider anymore. We're talking about Murray. Like, how is he not a Knick? And that, to me, everyone's already trying to like break up Young and Murray.
Yeah, it's really weird, just the timeline. I think just in sports in general, everything's just become much more abbreviated. People want instant success. They want their team to win a championship now, and it takes time. I mean, if you go back to yesteryear, I mean, Shaq and Kobe, it took them years to even get over that hump and win the titles. They ran off championships, but there was times they got swept twice by the Spurs, or you know what I'm saying, nearly on the brink of losing to the Blazers. You know what I'm saying?
Two of the top 10 players of all time on the same team.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
I mean, MJ, he didn't get there right away. Like, you know, it didn't take. I mean, y'all's Mavs, the Heat. Like, if I would have told you guys like now today, like, I mean, you guys, us being younger fans at the time when they played, it's 2000, you know, whatever, 11, right?
Yeah, when they won.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disparage your championship. My bad. Incredible, one of the all-time performances. 2011, you know, if I tell you today, like, you had a team of Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, all the bevy of all the guys they had there, right? Yeah. You know, and the front office, that was amazing, and a team basically with Dirk, who they had great pieces, probably a better team than Luka has around him, but I don't know.
Sure.
Undoubtedly,
I don't know I don't know if Dirk is better than Luka.
He's not. I love Dirk, and I think he's an all-time Mav. He's a higher on the all-time Mav list right now. But as far as like in a vacuum, which player is better? I would take Luka.
That's a great point when you say in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're so different, right? That
it's easier to play team basketball with Dirk, though. I would say. Like,
I feel you.
He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands at all time. When you have a 7-footer who can hit 40% from three,
it's
like
almost a KD effect.
What do you mean by that?
KD doesn't need to, like, when I look at, you know, and I'll get back to my LeBron point in a hot sec, but the whole thing with KD on that notion, you don't see KD chuck up like 30 shots. No. Right? You could look at Kevin Durant. The beauty of him for me as a basketball player is he'll have 33 points, but that's like on like 12 of 15.
Yeah, like super efficient.
It's not like a James Harden. Houston is 4 of 21, but I've been to the line like more times than I've been to like an NBA basketball game. Like, you know, but going back to the point, if I toss all today, like a team that caliber, you know, beat a team like y'all, we'd think it's crazy, you know. But it takes time to develop the chemistry.
It's so funny in basketball because sometimes the best team on paper won't end up winning the title, and so like we mentioned that 2011 Mavs team, it was a great team. But I would almost make the case the 2003 Mavs were the best team in history of that franchise. When you got Steve Nash there, you got Dirk there, Bleed Finn was there, you got Nick Van Exel coming off the bench, you got Donnie Nelson coaching, and then you just have a miraculous performance.
You just want me to name other players? Because I can. They had Rafe LaFrance on that team, like, Wayne GG, my God.
From a team aspect, that team was incredible.
Yeah.
But they just ran into a Spurs team that fit better and was ready for the moment. When you have championship DNA, like the Steve Smith on that team, Steve Kerr going off.
Steve Smith.
You know what I'm saying? It's just Steven Jackson going crazy. It's just sometimes in basketball you run against teams that fit better.
And sometimes like that Spurs team was they played better as a team. That Mavs team in 2011 played better as a team.
Yep.
I mean, I was going to like the Spurs team is arguably one of the best like team playing teams that they've had with Popovich, you know, at the helm. You know,
that's why the Warriors have been so great in their most recent like iteration of this franchise that now we've seen be excellent for 8 years now. It's because
for a decade.
A decade. Not only do they have Stephen Curry, who talk about top 10 players of all time, a lot of people have him now currently in their top 10 of all time.
Should be 5, bro.
He should be number 5
in there.
He's climbing up there.
It's
hard.
Separate conversation though. But but I would say like they move the ball so well. They play on both ends of the court. It's not just that they have Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. That helps, but those guys have to mesh together and play together and play off of each other.
It starts and stops with your best player. And I guess we circle back to the Celtics. When you have that continuity up top, and in this case with Boston, you have 2 guys. Because if Jaylen Brown was on his own franchise, he would be in the conversation of like a top 15, top 16 player, maybe even higher.
We used to have this about Clay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like when you have that continuity and you have those guys that are able to night in, night out perform at that level, and I'm sure be coached well, you allow yourself to have sustained success in the NBA. And no matter what anyone tells you, You need a Hall of Fame player. You need Hall of Fame teammates at the NBA level to be successful.
When you say Hall of Fame teammates, you mean like literally guys that are like Hall of Fame teammates, but not Hall of Fame like type players.
No, like, well, I guess let me phrase it better. You need Hall of Fame players. Like this notion that players in the NBA win by themselves is like the biggest fallacy we've seen ever. Like that gets perpetuated on
Right.
Twitter.
Or even if you go back to the 2011 team, like Jason Kidd is a Hall of Famer.
People forget Peja Stojakovic was on that team.
Right.
Tyson Chandler, who would be a Hall of Famer, probably was on that team.
Sean Marion, Jason Terry, like both fringe guys. Like I don't know if they'll ever end up getting there, but like
And it's tricky now with because
Brian
like Ben,
Cardinal.
they're all stars. they're all stars.
you know what I'm
though.
saying? Like Ben Wallace is in the Hall of Fame. No knock to Ben Wallace, but I don't think people like you go back to 04, 05, I don't know if people expected Ben Wallace to be in the Hall of Fame, but
They
he's
have
there now.
5 guys in their starting lineup like Rasheed, Billups, Prince, and Rip Hamilton.
And that's the one team people will point to say, well, they didn't have Hall of Fame players like in the last 30 years of NBA champions. But it's like when it all shakes out, multiple Hall of Famers.
And you could make the case for a guy like Billups. You could make. I'm not saying they are, but like
I don't know. Is he tanking it with this coaching job? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I love Johnson.
I mean, they go inversely to my point of like they don't let things marinate. There's a situation I guess delve into the trade deadline where you let something marinate too much, and I think that's gone. Do you think that's gone on in Portland? Do you think it's time?
I think it's difficult. I always think it's difficult for your franchise player to be 6'3" and under to really be the best player to win a title. When's the last time we've seen that? Steph is generational with shooting. Let's take Steph out of it.
I mean, he's the best player under 6'4" ever to live.
Right. Some would say Isaiah, but hey, that's a conversation for another day. But Steph is up there.
That was
without
also
question.
like over 30 years ago too.
right.
Point being, those two guys are anomalies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
the closest you came was AI,
Right. And it's like,
and I will say that team was
and that's
trash.
And that's the tough thing is like people say
Don't do
AI.
Georgia Lynch like that, man.
Aaron McKee is upset right now, but like
Snow, bro.
it took a generational performance from AI in that game 1 of the finals just to get a win.
Yeah.
And they won and then didn't win again. And then he never went back to the finals. That show you how it's really tough. It's really, really tough, especially how the game is played now in the NBA. I think you need 2 6'9" guys that can dominate on the wings, 6'9" and up, and then you have a shot. Other than that, you have to be a Steph Curry. You have to be otherworldly to be able to sustain throughout the season and then face the different matchups that you have in the postseason. Like, let's look at a guy like Joker, right? Arguably this season is his best season, but he may not win the MVP because of just Joker fatigue of winning MVP. But I think he's averaging like a triple-double right now. But we saw when they played Philly the other day, they put PJ Tucker on him, and that's going to be a problem come playoff time, that you can just put like a smaller guy on Joker and then just kind of shut out everybody else. So it's like these little things where you need versatility on the wings. You need guys that can really go get you a playoff bucket.
So would you say like that team, they don't have enough right now?
I don't.
Because they've got, like Aaron Gordon is, I think, probably
Talking about a guy playing his best basketball.
that
would be
falls
Aaron
in that
Gordon.
category of
sure.
what you're talking about.
For sure.
But MPJ just can't necessarily do it on both sides of the ball.
And that's the thing. It's like
That's tough.
with that versatility, you have to incorporate the defensive aspect to it, because you can make the case that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are 2 of the best wing defenders in the league.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And so MPJ's not that.
Not even close.
Your three best players on the Nuggets are arguably minus defenders.
Yeah, and Bruce Brown's small.
Yeah, he's playing the 4 and he's 6'1". That's just
Right.
like we can't.
No, they
Murray's
do they
coming
make
back from injury.
they
Never
make
was
the
a great defender.
The contract's crazy with MPJ. Like, is there a situation where they make a move with him involved? I know it has not been mentioned.
My guy Nate on Twitter said, shout out to Nate, he's a Sixers fan. He said MPJ for OG Anunoby. I don't know.
Who people are
They're
saying
shopping apparently.
They're shopping for sure.
three firsts.
Crazy. And you could thank Minnesota for making the trade market just all over the place with Rudy Gobert.
And Atlanta.
Yeah, because there's a lot of first rounders going out for players that aren't necessary. Like, if I'm trading more than 2 first rounders in any sport, that player has to be franchise altering.
We were talking about ACL before, Austin City Limits, because you're a Texas guy. We all went to UT. Everyone who see on our show knows this.
Yeah. Texas energy right now.
100%. I sold at ACL. I sold a joint to somebody for $80, and that was less.
Talk
of
about
a-
inflation, huh?
That was less. It was less of a ripoff than the Wolves Jazz deal. Honestly.
But you
Jesse
Did
James
not know where you were
stuff,
going
man.
with that,
Robbery,
but
damn.
I didn't know where I was going with that. Dude, Walker Kessler had 7 blocks.
to be fair, I mean, you had all the leverage And I mean, where were they going to get it? Also, I mean, they could
Hey,
have
sell me this pen. Sign the name.
for sure, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, they're walking in there with it if they know what they're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Can't you just incriminate yourself like that?
Yeah, allegedly. It just
Sue me. But I don't, for OG, for MPJ, that's interesting. But then what do they do with like Siakam? Like then they have to move him in that instance.
I think with a situation like that,
Or like what does that whole franchise do right now?
it all depends on the Raptors, right? Do you want to reset? Do you want to try to rebuild on the fly, which never really works? It's just a question of who do you want to be?
But that's to me like the reason why that doesn't work is because Nick Nurse says no to that because he can't play on both sides of the ball because their identity of team building thus far has been let's get guys who are 6'9", who can handle, who can defend, who can pass. Scotty Barnes is the epitome of that, right? And they're trying to build off of that. But Pascal Siakam can do that too.
Yeah,
and so can OG.
And the weird thing is you hear reports now, I believe Mark Stein reported it, that the players are kind of tuning out Nick Nurse. And Nick Nurse might kind of be on shaky terms in Toronto, which if you're Masai Ujiri, you're like, okay, if you're on shaky terms, so I just implode everything and just start over from scratch and just build around Scotty
You
Barnes.
have your bling.
And as a GM, that buys you so much time.
You've done it. You know, like, and we were talking about this before you got here.
Yeah.
Because the Arizona Cardinals came up, and I said that's the worst job you could have. We cover baseball, basketball, football, and I go, that's the worst job you could have in all three.
And I said the Charlotte Hornets.
And then I think
Head coach. The head coach position.
Head coach position.
Head coach wise.
And then I raised him to the Rockets, and then he backed me down.
I said that the Rockets are clearly a better choice to step in as head coach than the Charlotte Hornets, for sure.
But if
because of the young talent that
if
they
you're the
have that has
Raptors,
promise.
you're bonds because winning is so hard. Like they did them in the Rams. They sold their souls to the devil for once. They did. You sell it for one season.
But in sports, I mean, if you get that one title, it might be worth it.
Because we're talking about these. We ask a lot of people, and we'll change it because I think the Kings are good now. Yeah. But in our lifetime, do you think you'll see the Hornets win a title, realistically?
No. If there's no, I don't think so. Because the way the NBA works is like you have to draft really well. Hornets haven't necessarily been the greatest at drafting.
Better at drafting than the Mavs.
You know,
But you also have to be in a desirable place.
No, let me tell you, I'm going to make a video. I've been thinking about this. I've been doing a lot of research.
Shane Larkin.
I'm going to make a video who played with the guy that I played in high school with.
Oh,
actually.
nice.
Yeah. At Miami. He was nice at Miami. The Mavs have been so bad at drafting.
Awful.
So bad in the last 20 years. Since outside of Luka, obviously, which when you draft a generational talent, okay, you're saying that face is
Technically, they didn't draft him.
sure. But
point.
trades on draft night count to me is you're drafting that player.
And I could be inverse to you, saying the Hawks stink as well because that trades a fleece.
Okongwu might be better than any guy the Mavs have drafted in the last 15 years. I'm not Justin Anderson with. Jay Crowder might be the best guy we've drafted outside of Luka. I'm not even kidding.
Thank you for that.
You're
trade.
welcome. And then Josh Green might end up Jalen Brunson is undoubtedly the second best player the Mavs have drafted in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
It's a problem. You have to draft well.
Because I think before that it might be Devin Harris and
It was
Josh
Devin Harris.
Howard.
It was Josh Howard was the last guy. Really.
Why is that the case for them, you think?
Well, they traded a lot of second round picks.
Yeah.
So they only were taking one swing in a lot of the drafts. And they just missed. They just weren't. Donnie wasn't doing a good job.
Also, too, is much I would say more so basketball. Your great guys are going to be in the top 5 more times than not.
Yeah.
Dallas just hasn't been in that space. The only one that I will never forgive them for is staring Giannis Antetokounmpo in the face and deciding to take Shane Larkin.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a few guys that really make it that far that ended up being a big you're kicking yourself. Kawhi and Giannis, you know,
And Jokic.
And Jokic.
Who's the best second round pick of all time.
You could go throughout the league, bro. We talk about Siakam.
Yeah.
I mean, he fell to the 20s. We talk about guys that who are the guys that won on that Raptors team? K-Lau, where did he go? Kawhi. Kawhi was not even drafted by the Spurs. He was drafted by the Pacers.
And the thing with basketball is you can always win through free agency if you need to. Because the Lakers have never really drafted well. You have to go back. I mean, you had Kobe, then James Worthy.
I actually think
and then Magic.
They were pretty good. Granted, I'm comparing it to the Mavericks, but they drafted Julius Randle, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. Like
D'Lo.
these are guys that
sure. For
D'Angelo Russell, guys that at least in the modern NBA are like pieces you can trade for, pieces you can acquire, like picks for.
Absolutely. But I guess all those guys on the team, that's the fourth out west.
They drafted well enough to get a trade package for Anthony Davis to
Great
win them a
point.
championship.
Fair point.
Because that was my question to you. Can you view these guys as assets? Because to me, they getting AD as part of their drafting. Like I almost view the Heat, it's big three, as a product of drafting Dwayne Wade.
For sure. Because if you don't have him in the door, then you don't attract LeBron.
Right.
or
If
Chris Paul.
they don't play on the
Yeah, it's all a trickle down
USA
effect.
USA
team
team, yeah.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if Dallas doesn't draft Dirk in '98, then you don't attract everything that comes after that.
There's also that aspect as well, though. Like if you're Charlotte, you're not a free agency destination for a lot of people. Like Miami is at least a little bit more sexy to go to, and same with LA and New York, But like you're in Charlotte.
Do you think Charlotte, just came to my head because we're talking about them and we bring up the Lakers. Do you think Charlotte, like, ruin their chances and it's the basketball gods just, like, shunning them for the Kobe trade? Seriously, is that like a thing? Like, you guys traded him for Vlade Divac and, like, you're just done?
What if I told you that Charlotte had no option but to trade Kobe, and Kobe orchestrated that to get to LA, him and his agent?
I would be like, seeing it, wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I think it was more so closer to Kobe, like, because I heard that they wanted him, but Jerry West and Kobe agent and I believe Arm Tellem, and they made it happen. And for us, it worked out perfectly. You know what I'm saying? Got a legendary player.
That would have sucked. if he was
Kobe
in the
wouldn't have
one.
made sense in Charlotte. That wouldn't make sense in Charlotte. It makes sense in LA. He's supposed to be a Laker, so it worked out.
Who did they trade him for?
Divac.
Divac.
Vlade,
Yeah.
Straight up.
Divac, yeah.
I believe it's straight up. Yeah, I believe it's
One
straight up.
on one for one. Absolutely.
He has a good 30 for 30 though.
Does he?
Yeah, once
yeah.
with your brothers. Is that
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
is?
yeah.
Yep, it's
A lot of good ones out there.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. We've been having a huge debate about Wembanyama.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I just gotta ask you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have to
ask,
ask you.
ask,
because-
ask,
Okay, what's
What's
the
the debate? To me, why does it have to be a guarantee lock? You don't have a choice.
that you have to take him?
You have to.
Okay,
Why?
but what's like who do you think should also be considered as the first overall pick?
You like Scoot?
I like Scoot. I haven't seen enough of the Thompson twins. I'll admit that. I'll be the first to be like, okay, I haven't really watched them, and I'm just going off what other scouts are, what I'm reading, what they're saying. Guy I have watched, who just fits what you're saying.
Yeah.
Wing who can shoot. Brandon Miller. To me, if there's teams out there like the Pistons who have a big already at center, right, and they need a wing. Like, why is it blasphemous to take Brandon Miller?
Because you don't turn down the guy that's 7'4", that can stretch the floor and run and dunk and do all these different things. And then also, too,
You don't get KP scared?
I think he moves better than KP.
Okay.
But that's my only trepidation is the body type. Can it hold up for 82 games? Hopefully, if he's successful in his career, it's longer than 82 games because you're playing in playoffs and things like that. But also, too, we got to remember it's a business. And I think having Victor in those seats, you're going to get at least a few national televised
Oh,
games.
yeah.
I was just
I mean,
more
Brandon,
I was more
Brandon
so
Miller
saying,
is not bringing in the same allure.
right. I mentioned some of the stuff you did, but I was also like, if you're the guy that doesn't take him, you're fired.
Yeah, your job's on the line. Yeah.
Like you just can't.
I
not
know
take
where
him.
this is going. I've seen it a million times.
But also, we were talking
there's
about
no guarantee.
We were
It's
talking
the
about
Zion thing.
We were talking about the Pistons, right? Yeah, but Zion's like 6'5", like 6'6". Like it's not just about the
you
size.
have to take Zion.
Because the Pistons they have the worst record in the league right now, right?
I mean, they're somewhere in the cellar.
I think it's right now. So we were saying hypothetically, if it's the Pistons, that they've got Ivy, they've got Cade,
It's not a bad young core.
they've got Duran.
I got a theory, though.
No,
I got a theory. This is just a theory.
I like Sadiq Bey.
I feel like if San Antonio somehow ends up in that bottom three,
Oh, they're there.
I think they're going to end up with the first pick.
A little.
And I think that's
a little
why Pop-
Patrick Ewing.
I think
The little lottery balls are just gonna bounce in the right.
I think that's why Pop hasn't retired yet. So I don't know. We'll
wants
see.
one more run with one more like
Hey,
massive.
he loves
epic
those
center.
international
Could you
guys.
imagine?
Yeah.
What I'm saying about the Pistons, though, is that, like, yes, Brandon Miller is a good fit on that team, right? Because they've got a center, they've got a 1 and a 2, guys that can flip-flop. Either of them can handle the ball. So you can slot Brandon Miller in as the 3. You could trade Sadiq Bey. Like, great. That makes a lot of sense. But Wembanyama can also play the 3 on offense and be a 4 or 5 on defense. So it's like, why wouldn't you just want the guy that
Can do it all.
immediately, I think,
Because I'll go back to the point that we were
Steps on an
discussing
NBA
with-
court and is a top 50 player in the NBA.
Let's go back to the Embiid. But Embiid gets in the paint? Like, how easy of a time is he going to have?
You have
with
Jalen Duren. There's not such a bad thing to have two bigs.
Because I think you play, like, let's say he goes to Detroit.
Yeah.
I feel like Detroit is kind of like the Splendor version of what New Orleans is trying to build right now, where you kind of have all these collection of young guys that have a lot of promise, but you're just trying to figure it out, right? So, like, if he goes to Detroit, hypothetically, Victor slides into the 4 spot, and you have Jalen play the 5 because he has a little bit more bulk to him.
Sure.
So
He's
then
been
from
good.
there,
He's a beast.
as a coach, I'm saying to myself, if I'm Dwayne Casey, okay, I'm saying, Jalen, you guard the post, and Victor, you just roam and block every shot that comes your way. Jaden Ivey gets whatever his shot is blocked on the fast break. If you don't end up trading Sadiq, he's running on one wing, and then can't forget about the other number 1 overall pick in Cade Cunningham right there too. And now you have.
Why do we assume they're trading Bogdanovich
I'm
either?
really right.
That's a great point.
He signed with them. He said because they promised him that in 2 years' time they were going to be competing in the playoffs.
Yeah, because I saw a report today actually that the Pistons are asking for so much because internally they believe they'll be a playing team next year. And I mean, I think the Cade Cunningham injury really set them back this year.
Yeah.
Of what their calculus would be because they kind of be
Unless
ahead
they
of
get
schedule.
Wembanyama. And then
Okay,
But I just-
the Magic are better than them.
yeah, right now I really want to see what this Cavs team does because I think that with Allen and Mobley, like this is not something that really has worked for a lot of teams.
Right.
It could have.
It's working right now, and they also have the guard play to make it work deep in the playoffs. Donovan Mitchell's been there, right? Like he's a guy, right? He's playing like a top 10 player in the NBA right now.
You had Darius. We have to ask you this in a second. You had Darius Garland on your top 10 shooters.
Shooters
We're gonna
list.
put you on the spot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you
that's fine.
Donovan number 3.
That's fine.
Who's your top 10 shooters?
Top 10 shooters.
That he had Garland.
He was my number 10.
Just shooters in the league, not
Probably,
scorers.
I should have had Bane.
unsure my top 10, but I
You
guess
have Desmond Bane in it.
He was my N1. He
Desmond
was my 11.
Yeah, Desmond Bane can shoot. I just hate watching this game, but he can shoot. He can shoot. It's hard to rattle off 10, but I will say this feels like a cop out. But Darius Garland can definitely shoot the rock. He's in there. I'm gonna give you a sneaky shooter. I'm trying to think.
You'd also just throw guys out.
We were talking also about like
Pull our list
not
out.
just like spot up shooters. So like
Just
I didn't have
shooters.
Yuta Watanabe on my list because like he's only done it for half a season and like he's just a spot up guy,
Yeah.
so his shot quality is really high.
That makes sense.
So it's like KD was our number 2 because he hits it from the midi, he hits the 3-point.
So
Like
Steph was 1 or something. Steph 1, KD 2. Not mad at that.
I had Dame 3
and I had,
before his,
like that.
even before his like back-to-back 40
Because
pieces.
I feel like Dame extended the range more so than Steph did.
Okay, so you're going from. I'm saying just like right dead spot right now.
I had Mitchell 3rd. I think I think right now he's the best shooter, ball in his hands off a pick in the NBA.
I feel like he's a better scorer than shooter, but I see your point.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I had him
definitely see
4th. I had Markin in 5.
it. Okay. Incredible year from Laurie.
I think I had Kai 4.
Kyrie.
Yeah.
Kyrie 6. Buddy 7. Obviously we went to Texas at this point.
Yeah.
We were there when Buddy and Nick. You said the other day that best college player you saw in
Yeah,
basketball.
probably.
Buddy Hill.
Yeah, live. Like
Yeah.
that's when I saw.
He actually might be the best college player, point blank, period, football and basketball I saw.
Really?
Because I think we were already out when Trey was there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we were out. We saw Jared Goff on Cal. He was nasty
was
against
nice.
us.
Was that the game homie missed the extra point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nick Rose.
Nick Rose. I was.
Gerard Hurd like has this crazy
Took off.
run down the sideline. We think
Unbelievable.
we're back in it, and then Nick Rose misses the
I heard
extra
it's a
point.
wild interview. He was just
Yeah.
like watching his kid in the background. That was all time.
Yeah.
We
didn't really have any like
Baker.
I had Baker was.
we saw Embiid and Wiggins. We saw that Kansas team.
I saw
Marcus Page was a better college basketball player than both those guys. We saw him too.
Marcus Page was nice.
He was nice.
He was nice.
Joan Felix.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was the game that he
Yeah.
the game winner.
Yeah, Kevin Durant was the best one I saw in person. And I saw him before he even played an official college game at UT. So I'm at a basketball, it's my freshman year of high school. We're at a summer basketball camp. And the day's wrapping up. And like the camp counselor's like, we're gonna go to the other side and we're gonna watch the college guys play. So we go in there, we sit on the side. You had heard rumblings of like this Kevin Durant guy, but you know,
He's not from Texas.
He's not from Texas. You just know he's from Maryland. You're like,
Yeah.
okay. You just know he's number 2 in rank. He's from Maryland. So he proceeds to get out there. I kid you not. It feels like he scored 30 points in this pickup game. They had Dexter Pittman guarding him. Wrong move.
Yeah.
Everything you see now or that he's done throughout his career, he was doing at like 17 years old in this pickup game. The ball wouldn't even hit the rim. It would just go through the net every time. And that was the first time I saw, you know how you could see someone do the same thing that you do and you just realize,
You can never do it like that.
yeah, they're doing something different.
Yeah.
That's different. And that's exactly how it was. And I remember I left. I called my dad. I was like, Dad, they got this 7-foot dude playing point guard. And my dad was like, nah, he can play with his back to the basket. And I was like, Pops, you just a hater. Don't do that. And so it was in that moment where I was like, okay, this Kevin Durant guy is for real. Fast forward, he ends up winning Player of the Year. And then he has the career that he has. But you knew then.
Yeah.
That it was like, okay, this is the guy.
It's funny because you say like, you'd heard of him, but you don't really know him that well. I feel like Texas AAU is just like such a big thing.
Man.
And like they all know each other just like growing up in
Yeah,
Texas,
man.
and you see all the guys that are coming up and down. And then for this outsider to come in from Washington, D.C. and just ball out and take over University of
It
Texas.
shows you there's levels to it.
It's just it's slightly ahead of the curve though, because a couple years later, we all know who John Wall is because of YouTube.
Right.
These guys, we know.
Greatest
I mean,
mixtape of all time.
it's probably second to probably first to
Like
Austin.
run through a wall every single
We had
time.
a
I
rap
watch
song
it.
about it.
Austin, yeah, Austin Rivers. We all know the mixtapes that how many times I see Harry Giles?
Dude, he's like in
I saw Harry Giles mixtape more than I saw him play basketball.
John Wall's like in the backcourt, dribbling the ball up very casually, and like
we all
there's
know,
like a kid like me who's like who his coach was like you're on him full
Sham
court,
God.
full court, yeah, and he pulls it back and the kid falls, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so sick.
Everyone knows that cut, bro. Like Wiggins' tape. Like, hey, KD's probably just ahead of that time where we're not really seeing it all play out in front of our eyes, and it's just like the last bit of whispers.
Yeah, that inflection point of when YouTube first starts, and then how basketball and just like I feel like youth sports just gets. I feel like
There's no more mystery anymore.
no more mystery, and I think it's improved sports because you have a lot more information and one just improve from, see how other guys play, and just allow other people to get opportunities that otherwise they may go unnoticed.
Austin Rivers hopped on. Well, he has his own podcast now, but before it was a guest on some show, and he was like, "My hoop mixtape, like, I'm out there. It wasn't an easy thing to get that." He was like, "When I'm out there, like, I'm trying to drop 50, but I don't care that there's a camera on the court." He was like, "I wasn't doing like looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall, being like, this is my court, being like, I'm gonna go off right now, like."
It was
He just played and he was that good. And he was just talking about how like it's really interesting because like now guys are starting to play high school basketball for the camera, which is different.
and the thing is, it always evens out because when you get to that NBA level, everybody's good.
Yeah.
Everybody's otherworldly, and that's why I try to tell like some of the younger guys, like maybe in high school or like kids I run into at 24 and stuff. I'm just like, yo, the level of work you got to put in to get to that level and just perform. And then just like you see how people criticize NBA players. I'm like, yo, do y'all realize how hard it is to get one of those 450 jobs? Like,
Yeah. A lot of luck involved as
a lot
well.
of luck involved. Like the Frank Ntilikina can go to 24 and he could look like
Oh, I love this. I love this
he
conversation.
can look
Actually,
like 2005 Kobe Bryant in any gym. You know what I'm saying? Like
Theo Pinson drops 50 on every
Everybody.
high school basketball court, probably.
easy.
You went to States. You were a starting wide receiver in your state football team. You went to college. How good were the wide receivers?
I mean, they were phenomenal. They're all 5-star, 4-star. You know,
Yeah, and
like
then how-
some
and
in the
then how many of
NFL.
them went
Some
to
are,
that?
some are still in the NFL.
Yeah, but did all the 5-star, 4-star guys even go to the NFL?
No, there's guys who literally are not even playing.
That's the craziest
But-
thing.
Didn't even play at Texas.
Okay. Theo drops like in my men's league that I played in like a month ago. Theo drops 50 points every game. Maxi Kleba does not drop 50 points every game.
Ever.
I'm just okay. So some of these guys like Theo's a wing, so he can handle and he can move and he can
He has
shoot.
more opportunity to
Same
do
thing
that,
with
yeah.
Frank, right? And Frank's 6'5" though. So when like guys would normally lay, Frank can dunk, and it's just like no knock on Maxi because he's like a guy that the Mavs need to be healthy to contend. But it's just interesting.
Yeah, and it just also goes to the point of people, people like to say, well, I can beat him or I can beat this person. And it's like, no, it's not.
We also saw a Scalabrini tape recently.
Oh, yeah.
Someone pulled up to him at the gym And he'd put him in a body bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the 12th man on any NBA team will come to your local rec and look like LeBron.
Have you
12th man on the Lakers at one point was Adam Morrison, the best college player in basketball.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? So,
have you run into anybody playing just like pickup around LA where like you got on the court, you didn't know who a guy was, and then you played, and you're like, wait, you're that guy?
Good question.
man, this shit happened like maybe. Sorry, I don't know if because this happened maybe like
You could do, yeah.
late December. So shout out to my guy Bobby. He was like, "Hey, Jordan's having this event, Jordan Brand downtown at their court. Come run with my team, a little 3-on-3. You know, it'll be a good opportunity." So I'm like, "Bobby, you my guy. I go out there." So Jordan Brand throws this great event. There's, I believe, 12 teams. They outfit us with uniforms, everything. Awesome. We get the locker room, get the whole experience. They have an opening ceremony. We start playing. So the first week in particular, I noticed the number 1 seeded team. I was like, a lot of these guys look like they played on Drew League before. Mind you, it's supposed to be like, you know, like people that's just, I call them civilians. Like, I'm a civilian now. Like, I'm here. I'm just a civilian.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, those guys, I feel like I've seen them before. And their coach is Frank Nitti, who kills in the Drew League. And I'm like, okay, I feel like the fix is in. I feel like these you got ringers. So they play. We notice them. They're pretty good. I'm like, okay. So the next week, we're playing like every Wednesday. The next week we show up. This particular Wednesday, I had like 5 or 6 Zoom calls. I'm pretty tired. About 4:30 hits. I got to be there at 6. I'm like, damn, I don't know if I can play. I'm like really tired. You know how it is. You're working. So I was like, okay, I'll go. I'm not going to leave my guy Bobby hanging. So we get there. Because our performance the week before, we end up playing that number 1 seeded team that has the Drew League guys. So I'm like, okay, let's focus. The competitor in me is like, I'm ready to go, ready to play. So we start setting up, and they're like, we got an extra player. And they called him like Tim. And as this player's walking up, I'm like, his name's not Tim, that's Montrezl Harrell for the Philadelphia 76ers that y'all about to. And so he walks up, and of course, they start.
Basketball. I know that's not Tim.
And like
know
a
that's
very,
not Tim.
very distinct looking guy too.
He's got like the wrap on probably, and you're like, I know that's Trez.
I know this is Montrez.
Yeah.
I watch basketball enough to know that's Montrezl Harrell. I called him Montrez, and he looked at me. So obviously he know that's him. And so
bad actor apparently.
and so with this particular setup, we each had one woman on our team. So the 2 ladies match up. And so the other guy on my team, he's not my height. So he's like, well, you got Tim. And so we proceed to play this entire 3-on-3 game, and I'm guarding Montrezl Harrell. And I'm just laughing at myself because I'm like, one, I'm tired as hell. I'm not trying to be out here. But here we are.
And that's the worst guy to be matched up on when you're tired.
And mind you, there's a crowd here. There's a crowd, and like there's a crowd here. So I'm not going to get embarrassed with the crowd here.
You have to get everything
It's some
going.
lovely ladies courtside, so I could be a meme or I could be put on social media.
You don't have a ring, man. You gotta work. You gotta put in work.
You got to put in work. And so I'm holding my own. I'm like, okay, strong in the post. Okay, I get it. I see why he's played the league this many times. And then he starts shooting from 3. I'm like, all right, I got enough pride. I played enough NBA guys. I can play myself. I can't allow this to happen. And so one particular 3, he hits it, and it's like an and one. And I'm just like, man, it's just one of them days. And so I believe that was the only bucket he got. But then there was one particular time where it was a loose ball. And you know how you can tell somebody's going to load up to just go ahead, 2-hand dunk? I let him have that one, and I believe one of my teammates caught that poster. But long story short, I let my teammate be sacrificed for that poster jam.
He's a monster at every level.
Yeah.
I don't mean like he dominates. He just is everything is so ferocious.
But it just underscores that point. Like any NBA player can come to your local pickup game.
Well, how about the fact that like he's hitting threes, and anyone that like watches the NBA would be like, Montrezl Harrell's one of the worst 3-point shooters in the league, and he probably is. But like,
you'd be bummed.
And look great too. I was like, oh, that looks like it's money. Yeah, and it was.
He like is not getting like serious minutes in Philly.
No, so I could only imagine if Joel Embiid showed up out there. Just go home.
Well, you've seen that. You've seen that video of him where he like was playing pickup against like just a bunch of rando guys, and he throws the windmill down on the guy.
I did see that.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Embiid?
Yeah.
He's like at a park or something like that.
Yeah, it's like at a park. It's just like
They need to bring back the Uncle Drew commercials. Those are fun.
Those are good. Yeah.
It was outstanding.
I hated Kevin Love and Kyrie. On more personal notes, I mean, obviously, we interview. You do a lot of interviews. Who's your favorite?
Man, I always tell people
Or like maybe like one you're most proud of.
one I'm most proud of. They're all kind of like, I don't have any kids, but I would assume it's like choosing a favorite child. Just like, there's so many of them.
Sophie's choice.
Yeah, I think for me,
Sophie's Choice
I
reference
know
we've had.
one of my
best
personal
comedies.
favorites was like interviewing, of course, Pharrell. Pharrell was great. Interviewing Pharrell was outstanding. 'Cause
Genius.
I felt like my first time I interviewed Pharrell, I didn't do as great as I wanted to. And not that anything happened. I was just young, and a guy like that's been in this game.
OG.
You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
interviewing was all about reading energy.
He's like one of those polarizing figures. There's like he has done so much for the music industry that like you feel like you need to put like everything into that.
Exactly. And there's not nothing he has
You got a second chance though?
Yeah, and so I got the second chance to do it, and I killed it, and I was so grateful for that. So that was like kind of like a personal.
Yeah.
He seems like
milestone.
a really easygoing guy
Super
too.
easygoing guy. He has a real great energy to him.
He probably looked exactly the same from the 2 interviews too, right?
Yeah, I need the skincare.
Doesn't
treatment.
age.
Bro,
Yeah.
he did the Kanye doc. I mean, if they show the footage of
From
first time he used through the wire,
He's a vampire. He doesn't age.
he looks like
It's
the exact
incredible.
same. I mean,
He,
I would.
he discovered like Maggie Rogers. Too.
That's what I would. That's probably what my question would be. Was like, what's like I mean, you're a music legend. Like, what's it like? Seeing another music legend form in front of your eyes.
And the thing is, he's so humble with everything. I think that's the biggest thing I took away. Is like for a guy who's pretty much seen everything that has to offer and has accomplished so much, he's still super inquisitive about life and just humble about everything. So that was an interview that I really enjoyed, and I think my interview with Floyd Mayweather taught me a lot. It taught me a lot because it taught me you can ask anything if you deliver it correctly. And so he's in this beef with 50 Cent, and him and I are sitting like as close as you and I are, and I have to ask him things that he doesn't want to talk
You wouldn't
about.
even see it coming.
That's the thing. I
You
wouldn't have
wouldn't
seen
even-
it coming.
You would have just been
I
on
wouldn't
the
have
floor.
seen it coming.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have seen it coming. And my dad's so funny because he was like, man, if he would have knocked you out, I would have got a BMW. I said, Dad, that's not that's not supporting me. That's not supporting me. But yeah, I just learned that moment. It's like, as an art form and to asking questions, and it really helped me a lot. And it was a great interview. He brought out an $18 million watch.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not, Howard Stern does a great job of that. I don't know if he's one of the guys I watch. When he asks, about David Grohl about Nirvana, and he asked him about Hero, the Foo Fighters song, My Hero. The Foo Fighters song. Is it about? He's like pressing him. But I'm like, oh my God, how is David Grohl not getting annoyed that he's like, bringing up Kurt Cobain and he's like pressing, not taking no for an answer. But it was just the way he was saying it.
Yeah, it's like with
Just
Howard, it's
deliver it.
like, he's one of those guys. It's like he's been around for so long. There's a reason why. It's just that talent and being able to ask people and just kind of very inquisitive, insightful. And
He's almost like as big as his guests.
Well,
He's
that's
not bigger.
I was gonna say like when they come on their show, they're probably more nervous to be interviewed by Howard Stern than
that's true,
the
that's
reverse.
true.
for sure.
Speaking of interviews, man, we ask everybody this. Same question
Same question. I'm excited.
across the board. Could be from you playing, watching, anything ever.
Okay.
What's your favorite sports memory?
Favorite sports memory? Man, such a great question. That is such a great question.
It's okay to say the 2011 finals.
Yeah.
If it is, if it's not.
Either way.
It's
Either
really
way, either way
close. Man, that is outstanding. I'm gonna say that's so good. It's so many of them. Probably my grandmother was a principal in Dallas, and so she there was a particular time I was maybe like 5. She got tickets to a Mavericks game and a part of this program through the DISD, Dallas Independent School District, where they got to go to Reunion Arena and they got to meet Jason Kidd. And I believe it was Jason Kidd, Michael Finley, and I went with a group of like 5th graders or whatever, and I was just this young, small kid tagging along. And I remember, meeting Jason Kidd and them in at Reunion Arena and just being on the floor, being able to see how the ice from the Stars game was still kind of on the floor compared to when they put the hardwood over for the Mavericks. And it was just in that moment and being in the atmosphere, I was like, okay, sports is something I'm just gonna always love. And I think that was something that I never forgot about. Yeah. And it just reminds me that those little moments throughout each of our lives that I'm sure we can go back to be able to work in sports going forward now, it always feels like a dream come true. So I would always think about moments like that.
Great answer.
Yeah, that's
I
really
appreciate
cool.
it, man. Thank you.
We're always surprised every
Oh,
time.
I'm
we
always
ask it.
slow. Always
Never what we
floored.
think.
No, it's such a load because it's sports is so intertwined with our lives each and every day that you start piling up so many memories. Like
Yeah.
I had a Coke champagne like spray as opposed to like actual champagne when the Mavericks won because I was like 19. I wasn't, So
Miles Turner.
Yeah.
We went to Euless.
I was just
Trinity.
thinking about. I mean, I
His memory was hitting a home run when he was like in 4th grade playing
Little League.
Little League
Yeah,
baseball.
and like we're talking about a big man in the NBA. Like,
yeah.
We're like, oh my god, what was it like to guard? And he's like, yeah, like hitting the home. I did that.
Right.
I hit a home run in the Little League.
Yeah.
and I suck.
Now sports.
I can do that too.
Show me the Carfax on that one.
So many
I,
Carfax.
I have a ball.
I would love to see.
You want to see the ball?
Yeah.
I will have my
Did the
mom
coach sign it?
Oh my god, yeah, I'll have my mom take
Game
a
ball,
picture.
Josh Fisher.
I'll have it. It's in my room still. That's how bad I am at sports.
Sports is the ultimate connector. You won't find better stories or collection of people like you will in sports. So.
Speaking of stories, Pierce Simpson, go check out his stories. They're amazing on Complex. Thank
Appreciate
you
it,
for
man.
joining the show.
Thank you for having me. It was great.